welcome back to Football Daily, where today we're looking at some of football's darkest and dirtiest secrets. Corruption in FIFA. FIFA under Sepp Blatter was pretty much a chest of shady secrets and dirty money, so it makes sense to start here. The World Cup is the most watched sporting event in the world and creates billions of revenue from corporate sponsors, broadcast rights and merchandising, leaving a cheeky profit to be made by few. In 2015, the FIFA corruption case uncovered the deep-rooted and systematic presence of racketeering, fraud, bribery and money laundering inside the walls of football's most powerful governing body. The FBI arrested 14 FIFA officials who were guilty of taking financial bribes in exchange for their votes in who would host the World Cup. While the investigation looked specifically at the 2018 election and the planned tournament in Qatar 4 years later, the corruption proved to have occurred over 20 years, with Blatter also accused of mismanaging TV rights and Platini in trouble for unlawful payment. Chuck Blazer, the ex-head of CONCACAF, is also proved to have been a key figure in the racketeering, as he received bribes for World Cups going as far back as 1996, putting into doubt the legitimacy of pretty much every FIFA tournament you've ever watched. Messi's medicine. Lionel Messi is the greatest footballer the game has ever seen. He has collected 8 La Liga titles, holds the record for the most goals in all competitions, and has won 5 Ballon d'Ors, with a solid claim on a few more. Having moved to the Catalan club back in 2001 at just 14 years old, Messi has been the nucleus for Barcelona's success and their dominance in Europe ever since. Famously, the Argentinian's deal with Barcelona was written on a napkin, but what you may not realise was the deciding factor was that the Spanish club agreed to supply the maestro with a certain drug that would cost the club $900 a month, a price that Messi's local teams in South America simply couldn't afford. While human growth hormones are banned across most sports, Messi was given a form of the drug to help him grow taller. Relax, the GOAT isn't a drugs cheat. The version of the HGH that he was given as a child was medically advised and wasn't used to enhance performance. As a youngster, he was a tiny 4'1", and the drug helped his body develop, growing 17 inches to reach 5'7" today, the average height of an Argentinian man. Russian doping. On Saturday the 9th of December 2017, FIFA announced that the blood samples given by the Russian football team would be tested for tampering. This comes as the story of Russian doping has swept across the world of sport, leaving the nation expelled from the Olympics and some professional careers in tatters. The Russian state sponsored a doping scheme that helped athletes across a host of sports use performance-enhancing drugs, and 34 of the sportsmen and women revealed to have been part of the scheme were footballers. Pair this with the information that Vitaly Mutko, who received a lifetime ban from the Olympics for his role in the doping conspiracy, is now holding office in the Russian Football Union. So it's understandable that FIFA are asking to check. Corruption in English football. The Italians' history of bribery and match fixing is well documented, with every newspaper covering the Calciopoli scandal in 2006. But the very same year, an investigation into corruption in English football discovered a deep-rooted problem that everybody seems to have forgotten about. In January 2006, Luton Town manager Mike Newell and QPR coach Ian Holloway both went on record to say that bribery was rife in the English game. BBC's Panorama started an investigation and claimed that a number of top-flight managers and clubs divulged in unlawful activity, including offering players illegal fees and receiving backhanders. An FA inquiry followed with both Sam Allardyce and Kevin Bond investigated. Fast forward a decade or so and it appeared that even the FA had forgotten about the scandal. Allardyce was handed the England job, and with how that ended up, perhaps they should have studied his employment history a little more. 2015 Greek scandal. If somebody mentions Greece in the same sentence as football, you probably think about when the Greeks did the impossible, going from never even scoring a goal in a major competition to lifting the European Championship in 2004. But more recently, a scandal revealed how the owner of Olympiakos, members of the Greek Football Federation, and players had teamed up to totally control the fate of their domestic game. Revelations of phone tapping, bombing of a referee's premises, match fixing, bribery and perjury were exposed in 2015. The most high-profile figure was Marinakis, owner of Olympiakos, who under his leadership won every domestic championship possible. The businessman was accused of directing the criminal organisation, blackmailing, organising explosions, bribing and fraud. Despite 100 pages of evidence shown in court, the shipping magnate went without jail time, but he has received a lifetime ban from any football activity. Mexico's under-20s. The Caché scandal was the case that found the Mexican Football Federation guilty of knowingly playing at least 4 overage players in their under-20s team. These players have been used in the CONCACAF Under-20 tournament as well as in qualification for the 1989 FIFA World Youth Championship. The scandal was uncovered by Mexican journalist Antonio Moreno, who spotted differences between the previously published ages of the players and those submitted to the tournaments. During the investigation, the players' birth certificates came to light, exposing that one player was actually 27 years old, 7 years senior to the maximum age of his opponents. As a result, the Mexico national team faced a carpet ban of FIFA tournaments for 2 years, leaving the senior squad disqualified for the 1990 World Cup in Italy. Rogue agents. Transfer windows have been a long-standing breeding ground for gossip and scandal, but behind the big money moves of Neymar, Pogba and Morata, there is a parallel world where criminals turn football transfers into a new form of human trafficking. The head of the International Centre for Sports Security has estimated that around 15,000 footballers have been trafficked into Europe. These are boys who've been lured to the continent by people posing as agents, who have no intention of securing hopeful players a deal. Often their families will be convinced into spending huge sums of money on agent fees, travel expenses and living costs. In 2007, a dilapidated fishing boat carrying 130 injured and ill people washed up on a beach in Tenerife. On board were 15 young footballers who had thought they were en route to trials at Marseille and Real Madrid. And with even academies like La Masia previously accused of breaking rules that stand to prevent children trafficking, it seems that this problem is incredibly widespread, difficult to monitor as the victims need to keep quiet, and incredibly hard to control. Colombian own goal. A defender who picked up over 50 caps for his country, Andres Escobar was a decorated Colombian footballer. The centre-back, whose name isn't widely known across football fans today, scored an own goal for Colombia against the USA, which sent them out of the World Cup finals in 1994. 10 days after being eliminated from the tournament, the footballer was gunned down by gang members outside of a nightclub. The 2 ringleaders of the crime were the Gallon brothers, known for their connections to gang crime, prostitution and drug smuggling. It was their driver who fired the bullets that murdered Escobar while shouting "own goal." It's assumed that the player was killed after the gangster brothers lost money on Colombia's exit of the tournament. Sadly, other Colombian players weren't even surprised at what had happened, admitting that they'd received threats before the tournament had even started. The 100-Hour War. Football famously paused the First World War on Christmas Day in 1914, when British, French and German soldiers put down their weapons and had a kickabout. But what you probably haven't heard about is the football match that sparked a war between neighbouring El Salvador and Honduras. In 1969, the 2 countries met in a 2-leg World Cup qualifier. The first took place in the Honduran capital and the home side won 1-0, but the game was met with a lot of fan violence. And the problem worsened when El Salvador won the second leg by 3-0. When the game was meant to be settled with a playoff in Mexico City, El Salvador dissolved all diplomatic ties with their neighbour because in the 10 days that followed their win over their rivals, 11,700 Salvadorians had been forced to flee their homes. The 4-day-long conflict, often referred to as the Football War, was obviously about a lot more than just sporting rivalry. But the match kicked off existing tensions surrounding land, immigration and demographic problems, which ended with almost 3,000 civilian deaths in just 96 hours. Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar is one of the most notorious and successful criminals in history. His influence over the criminal underworld is well documented, but less known is his influence over the beautiful game. In 1989, it's estimated that the drug lord was worth around $3 billion, meaning that he actually had too much money. So he used football to help clean some of his money, as he used local clubs to launder his cash. But it also helped him prove he had a social conscience, as he put money back into his local community, pumping dollars into his favourite pastime, football. He funded football pitches to be built in slum areas and provided floodlights and football supplies. This had an absolutely huge benefit on Colombian football, as many successful professionals, including Alexis Garcia and Chicho Serna, came through as direct imports from Escobar's pitch project, becoming regulars in the national side and forcing us to ask the question, would Colombian football be the same today without Pablo Escobar's dirty money back in the day?